All right, guys, what's going on? It's Saturday, January 11th, 2025. It's the weekly podcast recommendation time for everybody. Now, most of you that already watch me know that I do this every week. One for the paid subscribers only, one for everybody. This is the one for everybody because I want to get people off the mainstream media. Now, it's working pretty well already without me. People are generally losing interest in mainstream media all over the place, and I don't really have to contribute too much to it, but I want to keep the momentum going, and so I recommend podcasts or debates or things that I catch because I have a lot of time to watch a lot of YouTube. So I want to recommend the good ones to the people that follow me and watch me because I think they should watch them as well. This one is going to be about I know people are going to hate this, right? So it's Mark Zuckerberg on Joe Rogan, which has happened yesterday, I think, or the day before. I think everybody should watch it because, look, most of the people on like my side or that would watch me, including myself, have a pretty negative view about Mark Zuckerberg because of all the censorship and the woke shit that's been going on Facebook for the last, I don't know, since 2016, you know? And the reason why I want you guys to watch this on Joe Rogan is because Joe Rogan and him, like with Trump, have like a regular conversation, you know, and it makes Mark Zuckerberg look more human. I have way more sympathy for the guy now after watching that than I did before. And that's not because he's like a magical orator that can, you know, that can be a master manipulator that can convince people of anything. I'm very skeptical of people that have done what I would consider evil shit. And I think censorship is evil because it flies in the face of freedom and democracy. And I do not agree with that at all, right? So I think Mark Zuckerberg was like the villain. But in this interview, because it's 3 hours long, they also talk about shit about MMA and jiu-jitsu and shit, which Mark Zuckerberg is getting into, which is great, but it's not really my topic, so I kind of skipped through that. But they start off talking, of course, about the censorship and about Mark's announcing that they were going to get rid of the fact checkers, which is absolutely perfect, right? And a lot of people think that he's doing this just because, well, the wind has turned and now the administration will be against him and make his life difficult because Trump is going to be in office, so he's going to go and suddenly switch sides, right? Which, look, even if that's the case, right, that's still legit, okay? That's legit. Yes, he's benefiting from switching sides and going against censorship because he will get less fuckery from the Trump administration, obviously, so that's okay. But he's also benefiting all of us by doing that. By seeing the light and saying, wait a minute, you know what I mean? We've got to stop this. And I thought, too, that it was basically for just personal gain, right? But he explains it. And his explanation is also a valid one, which is why I want you guys to watch it, right? It doesn't mean you have to trust the guy 100%. Anybody can get on Joe Rogan and say anything and sound like an awesome person, but in real life, they're like a devil of some sort. We won't know that, you know what I mean? Unless you know Mark Zuckerberg personally, you really can't make that judgment call whether or not he's a good person, whether or not he means this, whether or not he's doing it for the right reasons. And so the closest you're going to get is by watching him speak openly for 3 hours, get asked the right questions by Joe Rogan, and to see how he reacts to those things and explains his side of the situation. And the way he explained it was, look, at the time, we were getting straight up serious pressure from the Biden administration. Like, he says that, you know, the Biden administration people were calling up his team members and his employees and screaming and yelling and threatening them, you know. And he's also seen the trend around the world, like a democratic country like France just arrests a fucking social media CEO, Telegram, the Durov guy, Pavel Durov, and threatens him with fucking, you know, terrorism and child porn shit. You know what I mean? Because he's not censoring the way they want. So for Zuckerberg, from his perspective, he felt like his own government, the people that are actually supposed to be protecting American companies, which he also made a point of, he was gunning against him, which they were. And they have a lot of leverage. You know what I mean? They can just put him in jail and make up some shit. They did it to Donald Trump. Okay, he wasn't in jail, but you see what I'm talking about, right? They've done this kind of shit before. There's no shortage of people that suddenly disappeared from the face of the planet because they crossed the government, right? We even think that they killed JFK. We're all pretty sure of that, right? Everybody's pretty sure of that. We haven't seen the actual evidence, but they're being so cagey about releasing the evidence that it's probably them. You know what I mean? If it was somebody else, they just go and release it and say, look, guys, you guys are all wrong. We're the shit. It was this dude, and here's the evidence. And everybody go, oh, fuck. Okay, we got them wrong. So they're lying. It probably was them. We all think so. So if they're willing to kill JFK, right, in order to attain whatever goal they're trying to attain, or hang on to whatever power they're trying to hang on to, then they will put Mark Zuckerberg's ass in a gulag in 5 seconds. So I can imagine, right? I don't know if I would have done the same thing. I probably wouldn't have. I probably would have used lawyers right away and stood up to the Biden administration. That, I think, is Mark Zuckerberg's flaw in all of this. He has enough money and enough clout and enough power to hire the best fucking constitutional lawyers on the planet and just say to the Biden administration flat out, F you, right? He could have done that. He didn't. He was scared, right? Which is valid. I don't like that he was not so courageous. I really don't. I don't give him a pass on it. But hearing him explain it to Rogan on the podcast definitely makes his side more understandable to the average person. And look, everybody makes mistakes in life, right? I do, you do, everybody does. And people do deserve like a second chance, especially if they don't have influence over your personal life. You know what I mean? It's not such a risk to give Mark Zuckerberg a second chance, because if he fucks that second chance up by doing something that again would be, in the line of censorship or something like that, then I'd be like, all right, well, I gave him the benefit of the doubt last time, and now fuck the guy. You know what I'm saying? I'd tune him out forever. But it wouldn't be that hard, because I don't know Mark Zuckerberg personally. I don't have a relationship with him. I'm not dependent on him. I don't work for him. None of that shit. And that's the case for most people, right? And that's why I think people should hear the other side of this argument on Mark Zuckerberg's behalf. Because again, also Zuckerberg is not the only one, right? At that time, all of the social media companies, Google, Facebook, X, Twitter, Twitter at the time, TikTok is still very censorious. They were all censoring people. Maybe not Rumble, but Rumble really wasn't that big at the time, So they were all censoring people. And so they all felt these same kind of pressures. Just Mark Zuckerberg's the only one, except for, of course, Elon Musk, that is opening up about some of this stuff. So it was pretty crazy. And I believe completely, Mark Zuckerberg, that the Biden administration coerced their company and forced their company in one way or another to do censorship actions that they did not agree with and didn't think were plausible, right? And so it really does sound like Zuckerberg has learned a lesson from this. Now they are fighting governments in court, different governments in court over things that they don't feel should be removed. And this is a great move also for us here in Europe, because if the United States is not on board with censoring, and the Trump administration isn't going to be, right? They're not on board with censorship. The government will start protecting their big companies, which is what they should do, right? So then it will be harder for Europe to start censoring their citizens, because you've got X and Facebook now saying, yeah, you know what I mean? I don't think we're going to do that, right? And yes, they're going to get fined a lot. Zuckerberg talked about that Europe has fined the social media companies, in the last 10 years, like over $30 billion. That's insane, right? That's insane. But it's also not possible if you have a real leader for America in office like Trump, because if they start doing that to these companies during the Trump administration will just sanction them in other ways, right? They'll say, okay, well, if you're going to do that to our companies, we're going to fucking put a tariff on all your products on this end. So it will put the European Union in check over time. And we're going to have, therefore, more free speech options here in Europe, right? Because in Europe, they're trying to crack down on free speech in every way, right? Every way. You know, they're making laws, the Digital Services Act, the whole fucking kit and caboodle. They're trying everything they can. And this deal and Trump being in office is going to make their lives much more difficult and make the lives of the everyday citizen here in these countries, like where I live in Germany, much more free and away from the grip of government overreach. So it's a great thing. Guys, I think you should watch this. It's a good interview. Again, the MMA shit and everything doesn't really tickle my fancy, but other people maybe. So you can watch the whole thing. You can skip through those parts. I also get a lot into AI and the VR. I have the Meta Quest 3 VR glasses. It's the coolest thing ever, really. It really is. I love it. I love the idea of AI. I think it's super exciting. Yes, I'm a little worried, but you know, you can't worry too much about things that are outside of your control. And there is no more getting control over what's going to happen with AI. That's going to happen, you know, and we're just going to have to find a way to adapt to it, good or bad. And so I'm more excited about it than I am scared of it. They talk about those things, and I think it's worth listening to, so check it out. Look, one thing, if you guys are watching this on any other platform, right, these recommendations, I put the links in my description and Substack, which are clickable links. But on Rumble, that's not possible. I can't do that on TikTok. So if you're watching this anywhere else, you're going to have to just look up the interview on YouTube. It's there. So YouTube, Zuckerberg, Joe Rogan, the most recent one, sometime this week. Look it up yourself. You'll find it for sure. I mean, people are not retarded, so they'll be able to find it. But if you want to be able to click the links and make life easier, then you've got to subscribe to my Substack. The links are below in the Substack description. You can follow me on the other platforms, go for it, but you're just not going to get all the content, right? Because I also write articles, and those articles I'm not able to publish on Rumble or any of the video platforms, obviously. So if you want all the content directly delivered to your inbox, all you got to do is subscribe to my Substack. You can do it for $5 a month, but you can do it for free. Either one's fine. Of course, I would appreciate the $5 a month wholeheartedly, absolutely. But it's up to you. So that was the weekly podcast recommendation, guys. Have a great one. Have a great weekend. Enjoy this interview with Zuckerberg. Don't forget to watch it or listen to it. It's awesome. All right, guys. Take it easy.